you, I'm a little. Welcome to the show. We are excited. I got to tell you, I'm a little delayed starting today. And the reason I'm delayed is because I was talking to my good friend, Jovan. Jovan has been a warrior in the election integrity movement, as you all know, and has been fighting. And is, of course, I got to be honest with you guys. You know, when I look at election integrity, it's kind of like the health freedom movement. It makes me a little bit sick because everybody's sniping each other. Everybody's got to snipe each other. Instead of just saying, listen, we're all fighting on the same team and for the same cause. The movement always has to form a circular firing squad. And I'm not sure why patriots need to do that, freedom fighters. But for some reason, we just all like to shoot at each other. I mean, you would think we'd be focused on the bad guys, but Jovan has had a lot of that over the years, but has continued to fight. He's just continued to do good things. And he's still doing it. He's still doing it. You know, and I've always kind of felt for Jovan because of that particular thing. It's kind of because I've experienced a ton of that in the health freedom world. I've always been, you know, I'm a big supporter of election integrity, and I've done a little bit there, but I'm not in the ballpark of what Jovan and some of these other guys have done. So, you know, it's one of those things where Jovan's earned my respect because he's been very, very steadfast in this. He's always been a good friend to me and to the show. And he's a good man. He's just fighting hard on this. So I'm glad to have him here. We're going to get into some stuff, some updates. We got to raise some money for Jovan. He's been fighting this stuff for a while, and some of the stuff he's got going on, we got to raise some money for. We'll get into that in a minute. There's all sorts of other things happening, and I'm going to probably pick Jovan's brain on a few other topics if we've got the time. We'll see how the show goes. Whenever Jovan's here, you know, we just get into so much because the guy's a wealth of information. But you know, we see some interesting things going on. You know, some moves with Palantir. I'm not real comfortable with Palantir right now at all. They're essentially their AI system, which was military, is kind of going to be taking over the entire government. That's more than a little bothersome to me. And then we also have today. I mean, I can't go on air with anything today without asking, what the hell are we thinking? Why are we opening a military base for Qatar in Idaho? Why would, I mean, what are we thinking? And we're going to train them to fly our fighter jets in Idaho. Why can't we train them in Qatar? If we're going to give them some of the old, I get it, the F-15s, they're old, they're not, you know, it's not our top of the line stuff. But if we're going to give them F-15s, train them over there. I don't want them here. This country, Qatar, I understand they've done some good things for us, but they also are fully embrace radical Islamic terror. I can't even fathom this. So we're going to give them a base here in the U.S. And let's be realistic about why this is. Qatar was used by Netanyahu to fund Hamas. I mean, Netanyahu gave Qatar $1 billion to fund Hamas, which, you know, I mean, I support the Jewish people. I support Israel. I don't support funding Hamas so they can kill Jewish people. What the hell are we doing? This whole thing is a mess. Maybe I got it wrong. Maybe I got it right. I'm curious what Jovan thinks. Like I said, he is a wealth of knowledge, and one of the few people that when he's talking about stuff, I enjoy listening because, man, this guy just knows a little bit about everything. So we're going to get into all that. Before we do, of course, we got to do some grifting because we also need funding and support. So please, GiveSendGo.com/RenzLaw. GiveSendGo.com/RenzLaw. Listen, it ain't cheap and it ain't free to fight the freedom fight. And I can tell you that no one funds us. Nobody funds us. The right wing doesn't like us. The left wing doesn't like us. Nobody likes us because, listen, I don't care who's corrupt or what's corrupt. I don't like Trump's stance on the vaccines. I don't. I'm sorry. I love Trump. I don't like his stance on the health freedom or the vaccines. I don't like what he's doing with Palantir. I don't like what he's doing with AI. I don't like what he's doing with Qatar having a base in the United States. I love Donald Trump, what he's doing on tariffs. I love what he's doing on a lot of things, but not those things, right? But because I don't tote the line, I don't get funding. Also, don't get funding from the Democrats because they literally do nothing I like. They're the worst of the worst of the worst. At this point, voting Democrat is akin to voting for Kim Jong-un. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I think there's literally nothing at all you can support on the Democrat Party. They're totally insane, 100%. They're lunatics. So anyways, we're just freedom fighters, and we're trying to stick to integrity and honesty. And so there's no funding. GiveSendGo.com/RenzLaw. That keeps us fighting. That's how you help us. You also help us by going to TomRenz.com, www.TomRenz.com. Can't type Tom Renz. You got to type TomRenz.com, or you won't get to me because Google hides me. They hate my guts. But go to our shop, our partners and affiliates, and listen. Everything on here is good. Everything on here. You want to look at, we love Block Trust. Listen, I got all sorts of issues with crypto and where that's going. But if you don't do it, you're missing out on money. Trump is pushing it. It's going to happen. You might as well make the money off of it because we've lost that fight. Nothing I can do about it. Yes, all crypto will be track and trace, but Block Trust is selling the best cryptos. They're doing the best stuff. It's as patriotic of a company as you can find. They are trading it. They are moving it. They're making it. You will make money with these guys, in my opinion. I think they're wonderful, and they're patriots. And listen, if we don't have funding on our side, we can't fight. Trump's pushing it. It's going to make money. You might as well make your money off of it. And then hopefully we can sell out as it becomes CBDC, which is coming. So Block Trust, also love those guys. Make sure you're using checkout code Renz. Checkout code Renz. Always leave these checkout codes. You get great discounts for all of these. Today, I want to highlight Nessa's hemp. Nessa has the best hemp on the market. I love this stuff. She cold presses this stuff, right? So instead of getting these refined poisons, instead of them processing the hemp with a bunch of stuff that messes you up, she preserves the CBDA and some of these other things that are really, really. I've tried hemp, right? And it does nothing for me. Nothing. I can't even tell I took it. Nessa's hemp's a different product. It's actually processed the way you ought to process it to preserve the nutrients, to help your endocannabinoid system. It's a great product. If you're going to try hemp, try Nessa's hemp. It's the only one I found that I actually like. I'm sure there's some others out there, but this is the one I use. So make sure you're supporting Nessa's hemp. Use checkout code Renz. You get a discount. Great product, and we love Nessa. She's a great woman. So, all right, without further ado, let's bring on the man of the hour, the smartest guy in the room, at least in most rooms. But how are you doing today, Jovan?
I'm doing great, my friend. How are you doing? And you know what? Just thank you for continuing to fight. All of us have been through hell in this fight, and I just want you to know I appreciate you, and thank you so very much for letting me be here.
Well, it's mutual. I appreciate, you haven't wavered one bit. And all the time I've known you, you have been as rock solid consistent on everything you said, election and election integrity and everything else. And, we know each other off air. We're friends off air. So I can say, you've taken one hell of a beating for what you've done on it. You sure as hell haven't gotten anything out of it.
No.
And
no, not at all.
So just so everybody knows, Jovan is a successful business guy. He's got more inventions, more patents, more things than any 5 people can count. In fact, just before we got on air, I was talking to him. He's like, well, you remember I got a bunch of patents and done it. No, I'd forgotten but I should have thought of it because he's got patents and inventions in literally everything. So, you're a successful business guy doing all these things. You jump into election integrity, the for fame and fortune, I guess, at least if you believe the left. But there isn't any there. It's just attacks, abuse, and even from our own side, which is real sad to me. So
it's destruction
thank you
to jump in.
Well, thank you too. I appreciate all that you've done and the fact that you stick with it. So
thank you, sir.
So we need to support you right now. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, here's what's going on, and I'll just give people the broad strokes. You got to remember that the full forensic audit in Maricopa was the very first time it ever happened in history, ever, at that level. And I don't think people understand the magnitude of what happened simply because of the amount of ballots that were looked at. You're talking over 2 million ballots. Folks, that's quite a feat. Anything done heretofore, okay, anything before this, and I guess the easiest way to explain it was the hanging Chad fiasco. Everybody remembers that in 2000. But that was about really several 10,000s of ballots. It wasn't really a big number. When we did Maricopa, which was an amazing feat, it's over 2 million ballots. And it had never been done before. But more importantly, it was done outside of the self-set rules of the system. Let me give you a good example here. In Maricopa County for the 2020 election, those 10 million ballots, they were stored in 1,675 boxes. Now, I never knew going into this. You think as a forensic auditor, which is what I came in to do, there were three of us doing three distinct things, cyber ninjas for running it. All the stuff you saw on the floor was my vision and how we track it and see it. That's why you got to watch it in all the colors. Then you had Ben Cotton with Cypher doing the digitals on the drive, and then you had my team doing fully digital forensics that had never been done before. But in the scope of auctions, there are on audits in elections, there are certain things of how these things have to be run. For example, your ballots that come in for an election all get stored in batches. So in one box of envelopes, there are about 8 batches of ballots. On average, a batch will have about 200 ballots in it. And the way the rules go is once they're counted and the auction's been or the audit's been certified, the election's been certified, they take those boxes and they're supposed to be sealed permanently as a sealed record. And the first thing you know in any of it, if they're not sealed, you know something went wrong. Well, when we got to where we could get to do the audit very, very late April of 2001, we noticed out of 1,675 boxes, there were only 52 out of all the boxes that were actually sealed. Only 52. 52, that's it, 52.
For anybody that's doing math, that's not a real high percentage.
No. And so in this process of only 52 sealed, okay, which is just a joke, right? Just a total joke. When we started opening the boxes, what we found out is every single box. Now, you imagine going into the box, okay? You go into the box. When you open these boxes, and you're supposed to be doing the audit, and you should find them together, in all of the boxes that weren't sealed, every single box was in disarray. So if you think about them as little packets of ballots, and they've got a ballot card on it that says how many votes for each candidate, how many ballots. They do that, they do the batch, they're bound together, they're put in a box. Well, when we opened these boxes, you could see where the batches were, but the header cards were down in the bottom of the box. And then here's the remnants of batches. And then on top, just jammed on top of these things, are just these ungodly amount of ballots just stuffed in. So we knew going into it, the ballots had been pilfered. You with me so far?
Yeah. Well, and to clarify, 1,600 plus boxes that were required by law to be sealed.
That's correct.
Only 50 were sealed.
That's correct.
And when you go into them, when you go into these boxes and look at these ballots, they're supposed to be organized, structured, and done in a very specific way, but it's very, very clear and obvious that they've been manipulated, that someone's gone through them, someone's shoved things in, moved things. And by the way, question.
Yes.
I don't know if you would have been allowed to do this, but did you guys take photographic evidence, when you open the boxes?
Every bit of it. We have it videotaped. We have every bit of it documented. They tried to pull a shenanigan, and the way they did this, and I'll just go back before we get into the ballots here. The way they did this is the audit's going to come down and it's going to happen, okay? Basically what happened is we get this random phone call from the state. And they said, okay, we got, or from Maricopa, okay, we've got all of your ballots ready. We've loaded them up and we've put them on a truck. So immediately, as soon as I hear that, I'm going, whoa, hold the door, throw the brakes on it. This is all supposed to be under police supervision. But we get a random call that they've already got them in a tractor trailer rig ready for us to pick up. So I notified everybody, and we powwowed, and it says, do not, whatever you do, nobody move and touch those things. I said, this is a setup. So we stood down. What we did is we forced them to take back possession out of that tractor trailer rig where it's a risk and put them back in the facilities where we're all supposed to walk in with law enforcement, with documentation, and get these. Well, of course, we walk in with documentation, we're recording the whole time, and we get it with law enforcement, we pull them out, and that's when we finally opened the boxes. Now, I'll jump ahead for a minute. The reason, I believe, they attempted to get us to pick them up first is because they knew the state of the boxes we're in. And if we would have ever taken those things, they would have said, y'all opened those, we didn't, we had nothing to do with it. They were fine when they left here.
Well,
I don't make those mistakes. And so here's what happened. It's not as much as about 1,600 plus boxes completely not to the standard of law and compliance. It's about those 52. So let me tell you about those 52 real quick. If you listen to anything we exposed that happened in the 2020 election, all different types of paper being used, not the official paper that Maricopa County said they used, all the issues with the bleed through on the ballots, and that was a big deal. It was all election day ballots. They forced you to use a marker. And out of basically 130,000, we're just rounding, 130,000 ballots, they bled through so bad that those 130,000 ballots had 2.1 million extra votes on them.
oh,
So when 2.1 million extra votes just on 130,000 plus ballots. And so what that does is that confuses the machine. So that was one of the things we told you about. We basically told you there were all these errors in planning the ballots. They were all out of calibration. There were different sizes, etc. Well, we found all of that, and we can chart it down to the box, to the batch, to the exact ballot, to the pallet. But in those 52 boxes is really the real story. In the boxes that were sealed according to compliance and rules, those boxes were hand chosen on election day by Katie Hobbs and the county. And it was said, if we get audited, if there is an audit to be done, we will look in these boxes. Now, this is part of the rig they try to do is say, we'll look at a little bit, and we'll just go grab some random samples. All of those random samples are planted. In those 52 boxes, not only mathematically do they confirm what we saw happen and what they claimed was the vote. There was not a single error, not a single wrong paper, not a single Sharpie bleed, not a single out of alignment, not a single wrong size. They were flawless. But yet, that was just 52 boxes. If you look at all the other boxes, 1,653, all of them had the same common errors to every single batch, every single box, up to 47 pallets deep. Basically, that shows they knew what they would go look for when an audit was called, and that's why they fought not to give us the paper. And I can give you so many more, and I will here in a minute. But that gives you a grand understanding of just how deceptive this is, because here's the bottom line. I can show you in a trail of evidence that not only was the number they certified never had at any time, that they actually missed the number, that all the ballots are not there, and that they basically wiped every single election day ballot from the system, even though you went in and voted, and they replaced 100% of them to manage the outcome of the election to a number they predetermined.
So so that everybody understands here. This means that what they did was they ran some analyses and they said, statistically, we feel like we can make an argument that this is how the election should come out.
Correct.
And instead of keeping some of the ballots, because if you had some of the ballots and some of the stuff, some of the real data, it would be very clear because you'd see a divergence in the data, right? So you see a trend.
That's
and
right.
It looks like everybody's voting this way on some ballots and everybody's looking that way on another. So it would have been easy. So instead, these guys, what Jovan's saying here is the whole election was rigged. They threw everything out, everything, and they wouldn't have known this but for getting all the boxes, because they had planned on just showing the fake boxes that they put together to lie to everybody and to manipulate. But because they got all the boxes, they're able to show this. Now, one of the things, Jovan, that I would love to do, if you'd be willing to share, is I'd love to get the video or some video evidence and put some, and I got it. I can put my team on this. I'd love to put a viral clip together,
Sure.
Showing the sealed boxes versus the unsealed boxes, showing the state, and then kind of put something together. I'd love to put a video together because that would be very, very powerful because people haven't seen it.
Well, it's even bigger. The incriminating evidence is even more significant. Now, first off, let me tell you folks why we're here doing this today. This was the first time it ever happened in American history, ever. Like I told you, if you go back to Miami-Dade County for the Hanging Chad one, which was the biggest one at that time, it only looked at a handful, 10,000 groups of ballots. That was it. No big deal. Very passive-minded. We're talking about over 2 million. Now, the first thing you have to understand about Maricopa County, Arizona, is Maricopa County, Arizona, is the 4th largest county in the United States of America. It is also the 2nd largest voting block of voters in the United States. Its voting base in its general election, 2020 election, is larger than most states. So this is historic. Now, when you think about the Hanging Chad stuff or people looking at a few hundred ballots or whatever, you have to understand what we really did in Maricopa. Number one, we actually, in taking those ballots and doing high-def, high-res forensics, just like you see on the forensic files, exploring forged art or a crime scene. It's done with digital photography. Well, what we did between all our different formats of images that I created, we took over 20,895,000 digital forensic images. That's number one. After taking those digital forensic images, what we have to do is we have to create proof files. So you have all these copies of the ballot in high def. We can blow them up to the size of a billboard on a highway and never lose quality. Basically, you have to show every single move, place, everything in a ballot that's incorrect, out of alignment, not to standard, maladministered, malfeasance, or actually a crime. We generated 208 million individual proof files, 208 million individual proof files. The technology to do this, where it's actually checking, measuring, whether it was a human hand that wrote it, a machine that did it, right-handed, left-handed, pen, real pen, Sharpie, or whatever, we processed over 58 billion forensic measurements. What that required us to do is we did over 2 trillion base computations, irrefutable math. Whereas if I'm sitting in front of a judge and I can say, this is what happened, not only can I go back to the exact pallet and say, go to this pallet, it's pallet number 32, go to level 3 on pallet number 32, there's going to be 6 boxes in that array, pull out box number 4, open box number 4, go to batch 3 in it, open batch number 3, there's going to be 199 ballots, this is going to be ballot number 72. That's how sophisticated this process is and what we did. Now, you have to understand, anything that happens on the machines, you've heard, it's the machines. It's non-prosecutable because all of the rules are voluntary. If you break the rules of the Election Assistance Commission, It doesn't matter because the rules are voluntary and they have no enforcement. If you break the rules of the Help America Vote Act, never been a prosecution on any of them, it doesn't matter. They're not enforceable. Break a rule on a ballot, it's both a federal and state offense. Now, here's the catch. I went into this totally naive. Basically, I, like you, when I saw the first results coming in, first I was shocked that they stopped counting, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going, what the hell? But I kind of knew what was going on. Let me tell you why. On October 28th of 2020, just before the election, Bernie Sanders went on the Jimmy Fallon show.
Yep.
He's talking with Jimmy Fallon, and Jimmy Fallon says, well, what do you think's going to happen with the election? Now, I'm telling you, I never saw Bernie on the, Psychic Friends Network. But here's what Bernie said, and I'm going to paraphrase. Bernie said, everything's going to be going great. Trump's going to be winning. He's going to come out and say, I'm winning, and winning. And then Bernie proceeds to say the following. But they're going to stop counting because there's so many, and you're going to go to bed, and you're going to think Trump won. And you're going to wake up in the morning, and you're going to find out that Joe Biden's going to be your president. He says, Trump's going to stream, they stole it from me. But what it is, now get ready, listen. It's going to be because of all the mail-in ballots in Georgia, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Nevada. He goes to name the states. He even says what time you're probably going to go to bed, about 10:30 at night. He knew
Almost
everything.
like he knew something, isn't it?
He told it 1 week in advance. So I suspected with that much detail something's coming. And so I'm watching very closely. And when there was the first thing of recounts being challenged done real fast, and they're supposed to be 90% mail-in ballots, and I'm looking at these stacks, I'm going, wait a minute, these can't be mail-in ballots because there are no folds. You can't have a mail-in ballot without a fold in it.
How'd you mail it in?
That's right. How'd you mail it in? These are folded by machines mechanically and put into the system, run to the post office. And so I basically put out a video that says, you know what? If this is won by mail-in ballots and you are seeing stacks of ballots that are flat, I'm telling you what, I can audit every one of them. I created technology to determine what happened to it. And of course, that went viral. Now, the American people forced that to happen because I could show them the before and after difference of what it looked like.
Yeah.
So I accepted a contract to do it. Now, let me give you something very funny here. When we're all battling for this and there's lawsuits and everything else and fighting in the Senate, when America pushed and got this done to do a full forensic audit, everybody knew I was teaching what the rig was. The Republicans came back, and right at the end, they says, well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll look at a few of them, and if there's something irregular, then we'll let Jovan and his team do what he does. Well, I got wind of this. I called them. I got them on the phone. I said, let me tell you how this is going to go. Either we do every single ballot like you promised the American people, or I'm not going to do my technology. Well, see, they thought I let them off the hook. They were happy. Okay, well, whatever. But, this is what we're going to do. And I said, but hold on a minute. Just so you know, I'm going to tell the American people that you lied to them, saying you would do every ballot, and you don't even plan to do it. So I did it. I told the people that watch my program. 60,000 phone calls came into the state switchboards, more emails than that. They shut down the whole state, and these guys had to capitulate and agree to do every single one of them. Well, that's when I made mortal enemies. See, I now know they knew about those 52 boxes, and that'd be the only boxes they look at, right?
Of course they
So
did.
here's the deal. I accepted a contract basically to do this for pennies. You got to get paid if you're an expert witness. You can't do it for free. You're a paid expert witness, right? You do it for free.
That's what I've been missing.
Yeah,
That's been my error.
Well, see, in court, they can say, well, you did it for free. You donated your time. You must have bias. It's a key. It's how they throw it out of court.
No.
And so you have to be paid, which is what I am, as an expert witness. A contractor, here's the contract, you have to be paid. So what I agreed to do it for was about $210,000 because I figured that's what it would take. I was going to develop about 10 different ways to look at these things so I could tell what happened. Well, as we started doing it, I won't even tell you about all the sabotage and stuff going on.
I can
When it
imagine.
finally came to it, I had to create 25 different brand new technologies to be able to audit and forensically prove all this stuff. And so basically, I've got about $3 million in this on a $210,000 contract. Now, what I didn't account for is, I'm talking with Barnovich, Numchuck AG in Arizona, and I'm going over all this detail, and I'm saying, I've got to turn this data over to you. It's petabytes of data. It's about 200 times the size of the Library of Congress.
Yeah.
And I say, I've got to turn over this data to you. And they basically said, okay. Now, when they realized the magnitude of the things I just told you, because you have to create irrefutable, trackable evidence in a perfect chain of custody or it's not valid. Mm-hmm. They basically said, well, if you'll pay for the servers and the drives and stuff, we'll take possession. So they wanted me to drop ultimately would have been several $100,000 more for them and their office just to hold on to the data. But what it would do is relinquish control to them. I'd never see it again. Of course, we weren't going to do that. So
they wanted you to pay to give them your evidence.
That's correct.
So that they could then wipe it out.
So they could wipe it out. So I had to make a very, 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 very hard decision. And that decision was I was going to keep this in a perfect chain of custody by law. And I was going to have to bite what that took. And you have to understand this cost between the massive amount of data and everything else, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a month just to keep. And it's been 1,700 days.
Well,
it's been several years.
Let me weigh in here on a couple things, because first of all, as an attorney, I'm going to just say what Jovan is saying is 1,000% accurate. To maintain evidence in that way, it means that you have to, you have to document. You have to be able to show that it hasn't been manipulated, it hasn't been messed with. And it is not going to be a cheap process. Now, I hate to even guess all the things that you have to do that. I haven't looked at the specifics, but I can tell everybody here that for Jovan to manage and to keep this data in evidentiary format where it could be used again is no small task. This is a very big, very expensive thing, but it's crucial because this is the only real evidence that hasn't been messed with that I know of.
You're right. It's the only thing left in 2020. We can recreate the entire Maricopa County, Arizona audit election. Let me drop a few things on you. That's when I kind of learned their game.
Yeah.
I learned it's sweat. If they can't cancel you, you got to remember they tried to assassinate me. They almost got me. Then I lost tens of millions of dollars in my other businesses because all of a sudden I became a pariah for fighting for this country. It cost me dearly in my technology side, cost me and my family, cost me dearly. And so, but I can't let this go. And so I'm just bleeding and I'm bleeding and I'm bleeding and I'm bleeding. But that's what they want you to do. They want you to kind of relinquish it. Because see, if you change it, if it's not still in your possession, then they can say, well, how do we know you didn't manipulate it? How do we know you didn't do this? And so we've had to stay in it. Now, I knew that was coming. And so I have stayed since April 20th, 2021. I have stayed in perpetual forensic audit mode. I have not, to date, issued everything I know. And I know there are multiple more technologies I can do for things we've learned over these 4 years that I can confirm. Now, by leaving that open, I'm still investigating. I haven't closed my investigation. Now, the reason I do this is so I avoid the legal issue of latches. Yeah. See, they try to say if you knew of it in advance and you didn't do anything about it, well, then you let the time frame go. Well, I learned that game the hard way, and I wasn't going to do it, and I wasn't going to watch it happen. And I learned it from the GOP. Why? Because the GOP basically filed 71 lawsuits to get a hold of all the paper ballots to do forensic audits. They filed 71 of them 12 hours before the deadline expired.
Yep.
They didn't even serve anybody.
They didn't
Everything
care.
was already
This was
destroyed.
all for show.
That's right, all for
You
show.
mentioned a little bit ago that you were a little naive going into this, and let me make some assumptions here, and let me spit this out. And guys, I'm going to piss everybody off right now. I'm sorry, but I'm going to be real blunt with you. This is a little bit like the Epstein list. Don't tell me that they don't have the files or the data on Epstein. They know about his child rape network. They know what's going on. And the people around Trump want to use that to blackmail. That's the same sort of thing that's occurring with the election. The GOP knows about the election fraud. The GOP is acutely aware of it, but the GOP steals elections too.
That's
Everybody
right.
steals elections. Elections
right.
are a joke in this country.
That's
and
right.
until we get back to paper ballots, now I don't think Donald Trump himself fully realizes this, because he wouldn't keep talking about paper ballots with hand counting if he did, unless he knows it's never going to happen. This is something where
Well,
there's
I can tell
only.
you, look, I sat down with President Trump face to face for 96
I know
minutes.
you have.
Right? He knows what's up. The issue in this case is not President Trump. It's
No.
everybody around him.
Yes.
It's the
yes. Who I keep
handlers.
talking about. I keep talking about the handlers because we're seeing the same thing. Why do you think Anthony Borla and Bill Gates are showing up to talk about health? Why do you think that Palantir is running everything? I mean, this whole thing is because he's got crooks around him. And for anybody who wants to tell me that couldn't be, Trump's got 5D chess going on, bull crap. So explain Bill Barr to me. Explain Bill Barr to me. Explain to me all the people that were stabbing him in the back his first administration.
That's right.
No, this isn't 5D chess. And if you like Trump like I do, if you support Trump like I do, and if you support, more importantly, because it's even bigger than Trump, if you support MAGA, then you have to recognize Donald Trump is a great man, a great warrior, and a brilliant fighter, but he's not Jesus.
And he
makes mistakes.
And he can't change things.
No.
He can open people's eyes. He can push buttons. He can expose it like he did in fake media. But folks, I learned the hard way that a freaking county reporter in Maricopa County, Arizona, has far more power than the president of the United States.
Amen. Amen. It's insane. And I don't, you know what, Jovan, I think you probably understand this really well. And I don't know that I could. It's hard to explain when you know the stuff that you know or the stuff that I know. When you fought this from the inside, the outside, the side, from every angle that you can fight it, you eventually realize that even as president of the United States, even as Donald Trump, there are true, very serious limitations to what you can do and how you can do it.
That's correct.
And you have to rely on the snakes around you. And so the game for the last 4 years has been, if Trump wins, what snakes are we going to get in there, and how are we going to surround him with them, and how are we going to limit what he can do to fix
the
it?
least poisonous snake he can.
That's it. It's always a game. It's always how do we manage, how do we balance between, this snake and that snake? And, I suspect that's why we've got a military base in Qatar going in. I mean, there's always something. There's no one on this planet that can convince me or show me any reason where anyone MAGA would support a military base in Qatar, or from Qatar going into Idaho. No one MAGA is going to support that, but it's happening.
Okay,
Right?
we'll get to that. I have a little bit of a optical difference in it, but going back to the audit,
Yeah.
let me give you just a few samples.
Yeah, please.
It's about the propensity of evidence. You've got to have hardcore, provable, reliable, verifiable, testable physical evidence. There are no 6 polygon polynomials going to save anybody. No theories of we think this is what happened. And I'm telling you, it's the machines was a con. It stopped everything about the paper. Now, here's what the paper told us in Arizona. And I'm just going to give you some evidentiary clues. And you just tell me, you be the judge, you be the jury, you be the judge. You decide if this shows not only maladministration, but it's so frequency, it's malfeasance, so frequent malfeasance, but when you look at it, it's actually federal racketeering. Now, remember I told you those 52 boxes didn't have the errors that 1,653 had?
Yeah.
Well, what you have is I get to look at the full scale of the evidence, and I'm only comparing it to what they said. There is no opinion in what I do. They said that Joe Biden won 2,089,517 votes. There better be 2,089,517 votes. So let's just isolate basically election day. Now, here's the first thing you need to know, and I'm going to rapid fire these out, and if you want to write them down, you just tell me, is this evidence of a plan, of collusion, of racketeering? Number one, for Maricopa County, Arizona, there were basically a little over 2.5 million voters. Under the cover of COVID, they said, we got to send everybody a mail-in ballot. For Maricopa County, Arizona, the balloteer printed and printed for Maricopa, not all of Arizona, 4,089,000 ballots. Now, the first question you have to ask is, why did they need to print so many extra official ballots? That's number one. Then let's go to the next thing. The Democrats and the Republicans did not allow us to see the financial transactions of how many ballots they paid for, how many ballots they pay going out, how many ballots did they pay going back, because it's simple math. You said you mailed $1 million, it cost you $1 to send $1 million, that invoice better show $1 million, or there's a crime. They shut all that down, would not reveal it. As I'm digging through to try to get the electronic version of the ballot, because every piece of mail in the United States of America, when it goes through our mail system, it snaps a photo of the front and back automatically. It's called the Mail Cover Program. It's a tool for law enforcement. How do you think they found out who sent a president an envelope with anthrax? That's how they track that envelope through the process to see where it came in system. Well, combine it with a few things. We got our massive lockdown as Americans in 2020. It hit most of us in a big way about July 4th weekend. You can't go see your family. You're not going to get out for summer and baseball. You're going to basically official lockdown. You got to stay distant. Well, that was July. Now, you have to have your ballot information of how many you're going to mail for the November election. You got to have that in August. So I got a question for you. Why did the ballot printer for Maricopa County and a lot of these swing states, why did they order the single largest order in the history of the world for ballot stuffing and opening machines the first week in April of 2020? What did they know that we didn't know? Oh, talk about tracking the envelope for the system so I can see what really happened. The postmaster of the United States of America basically turned off the mail image system. What they did is, during the time that every single election ballot mail was mailed in the United States, they basically turned down the tracking system that would photograph every ballot, and they said it was because COVID, people have to distance. It's all mechanical. They turned it down, and then they let it technically kind of expire, meaning we're only going to keep them 30 days, not 7 years. And so what happened is, by the time we got to the audit, they trashed it all, but as soon as Biden went back in, they turned it back to the regular thing. So that's how they wiped the digital books of all the post offices. Now let's deal with Election Day.
What a coincidence.
Yeah, what a coincidence. You just decide on your own, folks. And so for the first time in American history, you were told by lawmakers, you must vote when you come in with a Sharpie. When every piece of material states, do not use a marker, do not use a marker, do not use a marker. Well, in Maricopa County, what they did is they said, we have a special kind of paper. It's not going to bleed. And oh, by the way, here's their excuse. This is all in writing. Ink clogs the scanners. And so basically what they did is they told every employee, every worker in the precincts, in all of these precincts, you must make people vote with Sharpies. They even put out emails, which we had, you make sure no matter what on election day, people vote with Sharpies. Now, they can't tell you what writing instrument to use. But more importantly, they only stocked Sharpies. That's it. So let's look at election day. So that basically means when you marked your ballot, that Sharpie was supposed to be protected by this incredible vote secure paper. Well, as I'm doing the forensic audit of the paper, I get a phone call from the very manufacturer of that paper. And they said, we're concerned. We're going to get clobbered. And I go, what do you mean? They said, Maricopa didn't order this paper. And they don't have it in inventory. And they've been promoting this for a year, but they did not order it. Well, I said, I'm looking at it. I can see all these bleed throughs. So that was all a con job to get you to use Sharpies. Now, why do they get you to use Sharpies? Well, it's akin to when you vote your ballot, if you took a marker and went dot, 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 dot over, it's like freckles over the thing. When it's fed into the machine, it doesn't stop your vote. It doesn't not accept the vote. Remember, you have the right to cast a ballot. You don't have the right for it to be counted. You need to be aware of that. It's only about casting the ballot. So when that ballot went into the machine goes, wow, there's too many things here. They think somebody doodled on it or piddled on it or vomited on it or the kid did artwork on it. And so it temporarily suspends it. Now, that suspension is called adjudication.
Yep.
For the first time in American history, pay attention, folks, in elections prior to date, and this, look, folks, you got to understand the reason we have to raise this money is we're going to have a $396,000 shortfall. If this evidence goes away, there was going to be no prosecutions, and everybody waited on PCAPs. It was a joke. It was a lie. Everybody waited on the Antifa call that never happened because that was the con. It's the machines. So we have set up GiveSendGo/Save the Evidence 2020. Now, why are we doing this? Because if we let go of this, it's gone forever, and the system's trying to wait us out. So let me tell you how this works. So these ballots were suspended. Now, in the past, if a ballot couldn't be read by the machine, that piece of paper was pulled off the line and it was run down to the end of the table, okay? Run down to the end of the table and stacked. It's called the out-stacking process, okay? And they'll pile up and somebody will grab them and they'll deal with them. But before the 2020 election, they introduced the brand new virtual adjudication. We'll no longer have to pull the ballot out. It'll make it faster and more simpler. And they sent it to an entirely different building where nobody knows where those people work. That means on its face, you couldn't see the ballots that were piling up. Let me tell you about this. In the past, you would have about 15 boxes of ballots that needed over the course of an entire election to be outstacked. 15 individual boxes. If they would have outstacked everything they digitally hijacked with the Maricopa election, it would have been 4.5 pallets of ballots, and there's 40 boxes to each pallet.
Wow.
That's how they hit it electronically. I'm not done yet. Stay with me. As an auditor, it's not just about, you've got to remember, when somebody says it's the machine and they swap the vote, you saw it on TV, that was a con job. In law, it's not about theory. It's about evidence. You do your test according to the scientific method first. You do it in a testing manner that anybody else in the world can verify. And then after that, you literally, then you decide your, what are you looking at? I'm grabbing something. That's why you hear the noise. So by law and science, we released, as we're required as a scientific institution, an entire manual of here's how you duplicate our work. This is what's required. This is the scientific radar. Here's everything we did to verify this, and you can duplicate it on your own. Here you go, follow the manual. Now let me keep on going. And so you have what's called before election day after Election Day. So Maricopa doesn't have 1 day of voting. They have a month of voting. So let me see if you can catch the irregularities in this. A few things you heard about, we got to keep counting. There's too many ballots. They need 10 extra days. We all heard that.
Yep.
Now, if you look at the election, because we're looking at their data, as the ballots start coming in, they are processing, meaning scan them in. You got to remember, they scan them in. They just say they don't count. They give you the lie. Well, we don't count those yet. Well, as soon as they scan them in, they know what's there. Not counting means they just haven't taken the little card over here and inserted it in the tally machine, but they know everything. Mm-hmm. So these scanners were running nads to the wall, 10 machines, 10 very high-end sophisticated machines. These 10 machines are processing on average about 140,000 ballots a day leading up to the election. Now, here comes Election Day, the people that walked in. Now, the rules of counting the election, you're going to catch it when I say this, is you count Election Day ballots first. Then you count the early vote and then the mail-in. It's kind of backwards, isn't it? Anyway, on those 10 days of extra counting that they said they needed, first off, 2 of those days they counted nothing. Then they had 1 day that was about 80,000, but past that day, every day on average was about 5,000 to 7,000 ballots. That's it. Oh, by the way, and it only took 2 machines. Why would they turn 8 off and go from doing 140,000 ballots a day, right, to all of a sudden it's a few thousand under the guise they got to do this count? Well, remember, we're looking at just the actual information from the machines. And so as we're tracking all this, we noticed some anomalies. When they announced that they had 250,000 extra ballots still left to count, right, and they needed more time,
Right.
that was not true. Or excuse me, I go to reverse. When they said they still needed more time to count, they actually had far more ballots to count than they released. Then we get to election, when they're going to certify it, which is November 20th, Maricopa County. So when the county supervisors and the county recorder certified it, they certified an election and they picked that number. They basically said that number, that Joe Biden won. Here it is. Well, number one, they still had over 2,000 ballots yet to go that hadn't been run in the system. So the first thing you have to ask is, how the hell did you get that number? If you had 200,000 to go, that's not the worst part of the story. Then it gets to the 30th. That's when the governor and the secretary of state must certify it before it bounces up to D.C. That's when you heard the special ringtone for President Trump calling Ducey's phone, trying to stop him, because they knew the numbers weren't there. They weren't right. But Ducey certified it and Katie Hobbs certified it. And that was basically on November 30th, right, of 2020. Now, our election was November 4th or 5th of 2020. Let me ask you a question. Why did, on December 8th, just before the Electoral College stuff is due, why did Maricopa run in a number of ballots equivalent to everyday election ballot, and they did it on December 8th and 9th? Oh, by the way, they still missed the number because the numbers are too big. They still missed every one of them. And so I'm going, wait a minute. What are you running in here? So we decided to just look at those. Now, ironically, those ballots were the ones that got suspended by the Sharpie. They all had a common denominator. What was the common denominator? They were election day ballots. Remember, you run election day first.
Yeah.
They were all synthetically suspended in this little time frame where they say we need 10 more days. So we start looking really hard at election day. Now, number one, I don't know if you remember, just before the county supervisors of Maricopa were going to be arrested for not complying with the subpoena. Remember President Trump, hey, Wendy, Sonny, turn over the routers, turn over the stuff, give us the stuff. Well, what happened is they played a game as we're trying to get the images and trying to get all the information from the machine. Long story short, they played word games and says, oh, you didn't ask us for what was archived, and we finally got them. Well, when we got that one drive, now here's the commonalities. When we got that one drive that they finally turned over to us, you couldn't see anything on it. It said data was there, but nothing was there. And it was in what's called the JSON file, JSON. It's a particular photographic standard. I even go to the lab teams that created the JSON format. Guys, I need help. I can't figure this out. We can't unlock them. They look at it and go, we don't know what happened. Somebody's intentionally tainted these. So it took us about a month of fighting to figure out was it, and they gave us a replacement drive. Now, on the replacement drive, when we look at every one of these ballots on there, here's a few anomalies. Just like the boxes, well, number one, they weren't in order. Number two, they were in completely different file structures. Number three, they had nothing to do with the election management software that were run in. They looked completely different. Number four, and that, besides being out of order, they were in a completely different format.
Yeah.
Then when you look at them, an interesting thing happened. When you compare 1.8 million, we'll say that were right, you can see all the information. Here's the machine, here's the date timestamp, here's the tabulator, here is the ICC ran it in, here's where it came from. You see all that information up there.
Right.
But on these, when we could finally see them, the ballot was a little bit bigger. But what was really odd was not only was the ballot a little bit bigger, it cut off the date, the timestamp, the machine, and the where it came from. It completely cut it off. Well, that can't happen by itself. It's not a boo-boo. It means somebody intentionally changed the file size so you couldn't get the tracking telemetry. So we had to find another way to verify. They screwed with these things. We already knew they ran them in later,
Yeah.
right? We already knew that we ran them in after the election. We already knew they technically suspended them all because of the dots on the paper. But here's an interesting anomaly. When that ballot goes into machine, you have the physical ballot, then you have the first digital copy of the pre-ballot, then you have basically what's called the post image. That means you got adjudication in between. So you got an original ballot, a duplicate faithful copy of here's the original, hit the machine, here's where we've got adjudication or anything in between. So you got the post ballot, and then it drops into the election management file, creating the cast vote record. Well, another little anomaly of all of these ballots that were on this drive, we did have a paper ballot saying, because that's how I got the image, we had a paper ballot saying, well, this is the real election day ballot, but there was no pre-image. In other words, we can't verify that this is the actual ballot that literally went into the machine. There's no pre-image. We got a post image, and we got it in the election management file software. So we're going to wait a minute. How can that even happen where you don't have the image? So they can't even prove they ran in the machines. It doesn't stop there. We literally took every chain of custody document. There's about 6 to 8 signatures required on every single chain of custody document. And I can show you photos of these. And it basically says, here's where we were. Here is the lock number on the ballots. Here's the new one we put on when we cut that off. Here's how many ballots that we picked up. Here is who is transporting them. Here's the witness that's transporting with them, 2 people. We're taking these ballots, this number over here. We now go over to the MTech Center. We check in with security. Security confirms, okay, I've received them. And then between security and an auditor on the ground, they go, okay, they gave us 700 ballots, and all of those must match, and all of those people must sign.
Yeah.
Well, what we have is we have basically 28 days of lead-in telemetry, looking at was every signature filled out properly? Was every piece of chain of custody properly? Now we have those, and it only has a little over a 1% error rate. Now what that 1% error rate means is somebody forgot to sign somewhere. Minor stuff, except, remember I told you these were all ballots affected by Sharpies?
Yep.
These were all ballots on election day. These were all ballots that we got later had been modified in a totally separate drive and of not even the same format. Well, on the chain of custody, an interesting thing happened. Now, remember, we're tracking all of these individual people that signed too, because I got to
And
go down.
Jovan-
I can tell you who did what, right? So we're tracking all these names. We're ingesting their signatures, meaning teaching machines to read them, so we know who, what, when, where, and their sign. You want to know a very interesting thing about Election Day?
Well,
On Election Day, all of the chain of custody says, okay, it came from here, and here's the number of the serial number of it, and then the rest of the sheet is blank. It doesn't say in pairs who transported them. It doesn't say MTech took them in. It doesn't say MTech verified the count, because not a single page, not even one, says how many ballots they picked up. And that's 100% every single chain of custody of that document day. So basically what that means is everybody did it right for 28 days, and then on Election Day, they had collective amnesia. Every single one of them.
Jovan,
Now, the reason it was left blank,
well, it was because they're committing
they
fraud.
didn't know how many they needed to create.
Yeah, they're committing fraud, and we're over for the day. But here's the thing: at the end of the day, I want everybody to understand. And I've been through a lot with Jovan. There's more. I mean, Jovan could probably do this for another 4 hours
Easily.
And why should he have to? Why isn't the Trump administration supporting this? Why aren't they? Where is the DOJ?
Well, the Trump, look, I have discussions all the time behind the scenes. There's a little bit of catch that the Trump administration can't write the check to do this. It
They
basically
can't.
creates, they can't. It reaches this
But the
weird.
DOJ, if the DOJ was prosecuting and could take control of this evidence, and here's the problem, and here's where I'm going with this, and we're going to wrap pretty quick because I've got another, but here's where I'm going with this. I've been grumbling about crooked Pam Bondi for quite some time. The DOJ doesn't want to do this. The DOJ is doing nothing. No one is being prosecuted. Nothing of substance is being done. Pfizer Pam Bondi is not getting it done. I am tired of people telling me she's doing her job. She's doing her best. That's bullcrap. Listen, I'm an attorney. You can tell me I'm a good attorney. You can tell me I'm a bad attorney, but I'm going to tell you what, I'm an attorney. I know what the process is. There is nothing on this planet that is preventing our DOJ from filing actual charges. It has been plenty of time. They could have filed so many charges. Look at how fast our J6ers are put in jail. Look at all the prosecutions the weaponized DOJ did under Joe Biden. This can happen. I'm telling you right now, it's my belief that Pam Bondi's dirty, which is why she sailed through confirmation, whereas Matt Gaetz got excoriated, and they're not doing it. Jovan is sitting here absorbing hundreds of thousands of dollars of cost constantly to try and keep this alive, because that's what patriots do. Every one of us has lost our rears. And I don't know one of us that hasn't gone taken major financial
It kills
hits.
us financially. Let me add one thing, because I know we're wrapping here. Barack
Yeah.
Obama in his first term got 68 million popular votes.
Yep.
Then in
Well,
his
if you
second
believe it.
term, he got 65 million popular votes. Then when Hillary ran against Trump, she supposedly got 65 million votes. And between Barack Obama and Hillary, they were the rock stars. And then all of a sudden, we got this middle finger that pops up, that Joe Biden with 81 million votes.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
on election night, and this is key, because you can verify they're doing this. On election night, when the race was called, that Donald Trump won, Kamala ended the race with 68 million and change votes. Now that tells you they're trying to convince you she was more popular, or 69 million votes. She was more popular than Obama, more popular than Hillary. Now, we're almost a year over from that election. You know what's changed? They now have her up to 75 million votes. They've been adding to that number the entire time to make that middle finger of Joe Biden of 81 million look less. Now, why are they doing that?
So they can
put all
manipulate the
these
next
bad
one.
people- They're basically saying those votes were legit, and they're codifying the bad voters so they can count a second vote. They've run up her number synthetically. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to get our ass kicked in the midterm.
Yes, we
We're
are,
going
and we
to
firmly
begin a
deserve
pitch-
it because Trump will not do a damn thing with useless Pam Bondi. He will not do a damn thing with his DOJ because Susie Wiles and her corrupt monsters that are sitting around him, lying to him every day. And when I say that, by the way, I lose access. So there's no access to Trump because he questioned.
Look, I lost access because I called Susie out at the beginning because
She's
as
a
I'm
crook.
going through this and I sit with President Trump for 96 minutes, then we go to dinner. He tells Susie Wiles 6 or 7 times, you follow up with Jovan, you get this done, you get on it. He treated me like a rock star. Susie did several meetings with me. I'm burying my father who died during this process. And one person she added into the process. The person she added into the process was Christina Bob. Christina Bob comes on the line. We're going through the numbers. And here's what Christina Bob said. But you didn't do a forensic audit. You never turned in a report, which was one of the lies they spread. And it basically kind of shut everything down. And we've had to be in fighting ever since. But I'm telling you, you can go look right now. Kamala's right at 75 million votes. That's how they're going to make these bad ones look legit.
It's coming back,
They're going to
folks.
steal the midterms. They're going to impeach
It's coming
President
back.
Trump. And then they're going to go after him on the emoluments clause. And we're in trouble, folks. We have the only evidence that's real. It's not some theory. It's not some PCAPs you get harped on about and then you find out in court, well, we never had them. It was not really real. I'm not a protected FBI witness who finds stuff for Tina, but I can't testify and she goes to prison. We are hardcore paper, physical evidence that can put these people behind bars. We've kept it open to our financial detriment and we now need help. And that comes down to you and I hope you help.
Well, listen, I want to urge everybody, please help Jovan. Please help Jovan. This evidence cannot be replaced. It cannot be replicated. And it's really all we got. It's coming back. And I'm so sick of the lies and the corruption on this. It just, this comes down, you know what? All this could be handled if we had a DOJ, but we don't. We have a corrupt, sold out DOJ that's no better than Bill Barr. It's no better than it. And, you know, when you've got the gatekeeper who still works for Mercury LLC, which is a subsidiary of Omnicom, which is a WEF partner, you got to ask yourself, how many coincidences are there? Now, you got J.D. Vance out there who is, you know, buddied up with Palantir. And I like Vance. I was very disappointed to see him come out, you know, kissing Susie's rear the other day. Guys, I don't care. I just don't care anymore. We're going to fight whoever we got to fight on this.
It is a fight.
You know, listen, those of us that are remaining true and supporting freedom, well, we're going to do what we're going to do. And we're going to continue losing our butts on it. But I hope you'll help us lose it a little bit less by supporting Jovan. Jovan, I got to get you back soon. I mean, we got a lot more to talk about. And I just, God bless you for your continued work on this. I appreciate, I just appreciate that you continue fighting on this. So thank you.
I appreciate it, guys. We're at GiveSendGo/Save the Evidence 2020. We desperately need your help. We're trying hard to hang on. We're going to have a shortfall. It's a game of trying to wear us out. This is a moment in time. This is the only audits I'll do. I don't think they'll ever grant another one. But we have to preserve this for the fight, if not for historically, because people have to understand how it worked, and you're part of it. We got the audit because of you. We need to honor those 2,000 people that worked their ass off there in Maricopa to get it. We can't let the system wait us out.
Amen. All right. That's Jovan Pulitzer, guys. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Thanks for listening. I know we were long today, but it couldn't be more important. It's coming back. The election steals are coming back. Everything's coming back because we don't have a DOJ. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back tomorrow.
Thank you for watching the Tom Renz Show.
You fight for free and fair elections, invent and scan the ballots of kinematic artifact detection. You love to read and learn, travel and explore. You're a fearless, brave-heart patriot who's opened doors. You are courage, you're our voice. Jovan, we thank you for what you're fighting for. You're our warrior. like a lion. You're David fighting Goliath, couldn't ask for more. You're our warrior. Think of what you've done for you, for me, for our country. You'll go down in history as our warrior. You lead by God and always do what's right. In the battle for our nation, you lead the fight. We pray for your safety, the armor of God to protect you from all of us. Here's a thank you for all that you do. You are courage, you're our voice. Jovan, we thank you for what you're fighting for. You're our warrior. You are brave like a lion. You're David fighting Goliath, couldn't ask for more. You're our warrior. Think of what you've done for you, for me, for our country. You'll go down in history as our warrior. Jovan, you're a hero we stand behind. We're inspired by the fire inside your eyes. American proud, we know you fight till your dying day, and we'll always stand behind you through everything. You are courage, you're our voice. Jovan, we thank you for what you're fighting for. You're our warrior. You are brave like a lion. You're David fighting Goliath, couldn't ask for more. You're our warrior. Think of what you've done for you, for me, for our country. You'll go down in history as our